All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about today is what's called silver bonds. I have been doing some research about bonds and courts and, in finding my bonds on the Treasury, um, basically where you put in your case number and the date you were arrested, and then it brings up all the bonds that have been created in your name. And, so I started to find that stuff and I was like, okay, like there's got to be more to this. And so I got this document about GSA bonds. This is before I found Credit Academy. And this document was referencing silver bonds. So I was like looking into this and I was like, okay, there's got to be something to this. And I had seen them before, but it was just like sometimes you get overloaded with information and you're just like, I don't know, I don't know what to do here. So I started to look into it. And so basically this is how the silver bond works, is that the US Constitution says that the US Constitution shall have jurisdiction over all matters over $20. So when the US Constitution was written, the um the form of money, it says in the Constitution that gold and silver should be the only lawful money for payment of debts. So in that case, so that $20, anything over $20 is what pulls you into the United States jurisdiction, not the corporation, not the maritime system that we see now, but the actual US Constitution. Okay. And then, back then what you were talking about is Article 3 courts. So if you read the US Constitution and you look up Article 3 in the Constitution, it talks all about courts and who has jurisdiction and so on. So this is what you're going for. Okay. So because when you were born, you were issued a birth certificate, and that birth certificate was held basic, basically by your state or the federal government until you reach the age of majority, which is 18. Okay. Um, then you don't have access to it and you're a minor and they're a ward of you. Okay. So then what you have to do is you have to assert your title. You have to claim your title, and that title has to be perfected title. So it can't just be a birth certificate. Okay. You have to get it authenticated. This is why they made it so difficult to get things authenticated. You got to come up with what country you're traveling to and so on. And a double authentication, which means from your state and then the Department of State in Virginia, it cannot be disputed. Okay. They're a court's or anybody's ability to assert that you are or are not who you say you are, okay, goes away as soon as you have a double authenticated birth certificate, because that is a perfect title. They call that perfected title. Okay, and so if you're in possession of that, if you're in possession of a perfected title, and nobody else can get one, if you know all the hoops you have to jump through to get an authenticated birth certificate, that the only person that can get one is you. They can't get one. Nobody else can get one. Only you can get one. Okay. So then once you do that, that's perfected title. And then because you're laying claim on that, that is your lawful claim of title. Okay. So that is what creates. And so when that happens, when you do a lawful claim of title, okay, you are supposed to get all the benefits of being the equitable title holder. Okay. Which means that you're supposed to be dealt with in the private and in a court of equity, and you're supposed to have access to all your funds and so on. Right. But they kind of roadblock you, with a lot of that. And then when you go into court, they have all these complications of what they're doing and what they're saying that kind of keeps you in the place where they want you, where they have control of you, because they retain the control as your ward. Just like if you have children and you go to court, the guardian ad litem is who has control of those children, right? That's exactly the same thing that's happening when you go to court and you don't have perfected title. Okay. So one of the ways to do this, okay, it's called a silver bond. And I'm going to go to the share screen here, and I'm going to show you mine. All right. So go away. All right. So this is the one that I created the other day. It's basically the silver bond. I do a lot of this where I hand write the numbers in, because if you're trying to make them understand that you're the real person and not the corporation, then if you hand write some of the numbers in here, that gives you a little bit more detail that, when you're dealing with somebody, that they know that this was created by a real person. Okay, so it goes through and it basically, talks about, this is, your name. And I found quite a few of these that were done by the Moors, and they have some different language. So there's all kinds of, things you can find out there about this. So basically what you're doing is that you are making the assertion that you, the human being, are tied to the U.S. Constitution. Okay. And if you are under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Constitution, you cannot be under the jurisdiction of maritime. Okay. So you can't drink out of both cups. Right. So that's what this is talking about. So basically what this is a contract that says that you are the principal and that your all caps name is your surety. So what a court tries to do is they try to get you to be the surety, the person, the human being, right? So this changes that. This is what they call subrogation, where it changes the position of everybody in the courtroom. So, so this goes through, and then of course this is the registered mailing that you mail it to the Secretary of State. So, you go through here and you just, put all this stuff together. It's got all your statutes, it talks about Title 26, and so because the Constitution says that you have to have $20, we always do 21. Okay, so we make sure that this has more value, right? So here's the thing to understand is because the Constitution says the only thing of value is gold and silver, every single other piece of fiat money that is printed in this country is debt instruments, right? We all know that they're debt instruments and they're not lawful money, right? But silver is lawful money according to the Constitution. So 21 pieces of silver attached to your body pulls you out of servitude and makes you can never be a bankrupt person. If you attach your body to 21 pieces of silver by the Constitution, it puts you under the jurisdiction of the Constitution and it makes you non-bankrupt. Okay. The court is bankrupt. The government is bankrupt. The United States Corporation is bankrupt. The states all are bankrupt. Every single one. If you listen to any of Pat's videos, you hear about it. Like me, my birth certificate number starts with 148. So I am bankrupt vessel number 148. Okay, because that's my state. My state is the vessel that I belong to. Okay, so that's what you're doing. When you're adhering yourself to 21 pieces of silver, you are making yourself more valuable than all the fiat currency in America that exists. Okay, so if you do that, no court can touch you. Nobody can do it. All you have to do is, if you ever go into a court, is to throw 21 pieces of silver on the desk, and they will march you out of that courtroom, because they cannot deal. They can only deal. It's the doctrine of parity. If you ever, I don't know if you've looked into this yet, but I'll give you the case number if you want to write it down. It is Penhallow versus Doan's Administrators. Okay, and it's a Supreme Court ruling from 1795. And it says that insomuch as government is artificial person, an abstraction or a creature of the mind only, the government can only interface with other artificial persons. Okay, so if you go into a courtroom with 21 pieces of silver and a silver bond, you're not an artificial person. You're a real person. And because you're a real person, they can't deal with you. Doctrine of parity says it, that from this Supreme Court decision, if you want to look that up. And it's a Supreme Court decision. And so if you go to Marbury versus Madison, Constitution is supreme law of the land. Any law in conflict of this is null and void. Okay, so there's there's ways that there's all kinds of people that are going to try and tell you that this isn't real, but I'm telling you that this is the realest thing that you'll do. Okay. And so you would basically, you just go, you fill these things out. You can either have me do this, or you can find these forms on the internet and do it yourself. And so this is, basically you get it notarized. You always, when you're doing something like this, where you're doing the real person, whether it be GSA bonds, whether it be all that, stuff that the creditor academy is talking about with all the SF forms, you have to sign in red and use your thumbprint, your right thumbprint in red. Okay, that establishes that you are the real person. And then you go through, you get it notarized, and then you have to take the silver with you. So what these are is these are Morgan silver dollars. Morgan silver dollars were minted in America up till 1921. So these are lawful money that was minted before 1933, when they took all the money away. Okay, so at the time they took all the money away, this money was still lawful money. So that's why the Morgan silver dollar is so important. Okay, now there is another one called the Peace silver dollar, and that one they minted all the way up to 35. So you have to like make sure you're getting it older than 33. Now, not everybody shares this. Some people just go get the new silver dollars. Okay, but the Peace silver dollars are 29 bucks a piece, and the new ones are 35, and these ones are 33. So to me, I'm like, they're cheaper and they're lawful money from before 1933. So that's what I did. So then you have to take them when you get them notarized, because what they're doing when they notarize is they're notarizing that you're signing and saying that you have these pieces of silver in front of you. So you have to lay them all out for the notary, and then you have to get it notarized. And then you have to take a picture, a copy of the silver. And then I use the bond paper. You don't have to do this. I am just kind of fancy like that. And then you put your numbers at the bottom, and then I use the dollar stamp because I thought it was cool. But you can use any stamp, but you always end a document in the private with a stamp and sign over it. Okay, because that establishes that you have paid the fee for the vessel. Okay, because all paperwork in this country is a vessel, and it has to be docked. Okay. So once you get done with this and you get it notarized, then you have to get an apostille. So you go to the Secretary of State, and then they attach a document that says that this signature is real. Okay. And then you have the Secretary of State, put this on the record as a security. Okay. And then you make copies of all that. And then if you ever have to go to court, then you present this, and I'll show you what I did. So this one is the birth certificate. You always put accepted for value over it. And here's my authenticated one. I'm from Wisconsin. So this is the authentication for it. And then here is this. So whenever you send paperwork in to the court, then you do this, and it's accepted for value. Once you do this, this is the most solid thing that you can do to lay claim on your title. And this is what's supposed. Now you also are going to have to go to court and say some stuff to the judge. And then you're going to have to do something like this. This is a bill of complaint in equity. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but you have to put this on your case. Okay. And then once you do that, I'll show you the silver. All right, can you see this? Oh, this isn't the right one. Never mind. Let me find the other one. All right, can you guys see this one with the red writing on the top?
No, I still see the bill of complaint.
Okay, hold
It's
on.
the same document.
Stop. All right, you see this
Now
one?
it's it. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I see that one.
So,
I have that document.
yep. So once you go to court, you have to say this at the, and this is so crucial. Like after you do everything else, and then you go to court, you're trying to get this discharged, right? Is in order to proceed, I must first require the court to recognize I am here on special appearance as a beneficial, equitable title holder. Okay, that's what I just went through with you on how you have to do that, right? On all matters involving the name trust in this matter, I do also require the court take notice of my bill of complaint and equity and notice that I appear only in the capacity of who is the age of majority. Okay. If you look at Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution, it says that once a person reaches the age of 25 years old and has been a citizen for 7 years, then they become an elector and a U.S. representative. That's your title. Okay, that's what you have to claim. You are claiming that title of being a U.S. representative. That's why Pat's paperwork and all those IDs and badges are talking about U.S. representative, because that's Article 1, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution. And that's what you're doing here. You're going in the court and you're saying, there's a debt. There's a debt that has to be paid for whatever the reason. Okay. And the reason why they throw you in jail or the reason why they do whatever they do to you is because they take your name and they create a complaint, then they convert a complaint into a draft. Okay. And a draft is a debt. And then they take that draft and they create a bond. So they bond that debt. And then they say, well, you can't afford it. You can't pay for it. And your credit isn't good enough. So that's why they throw you in jail. Okay. You are not ever going to jail because you did something. You're going to jail because you can't pay a debt. But you have a trust with several $billion on it. There is no reason why anybody should ever go to jail. So if you have your birth certificate in line, and if you have your silver bond in line, and then you do your bill of complaint and equity and say this, and they're going to ignore you. They're going to try and like walk away. They're going to try and like say no or ignore you or whatever. You keep saying it. And if they try and proceed without them accepting this, then you have to say, I do not consent to proceed until you recognize that I am here on, this says special appearance, but we have been told to say special visitation because only the dead appear. Okay, so I am here on special visitation as the beneficial title, equitable title holder in all matters involving the name trust in this matter. And you keep doing that until they do it. And if they don't, then you say, well, I need the record to reflect that the court is unwilling to accept my subrogation of equitable title holder. And then you move to have it move, the court case move to the federal district court. And they'll have to do that. So, so that's this one. If you don't have this, it's called a bill of complaint and equity. Look it up. You can get it unscribed and read it and understand what it says. And so that'll help you out with court there. And then I showed you that the other thing is the GSA bonds. Okay, so in the stuff with Creditor Academy, they're talking about the SF30, which is the SF30 is a modification of contract. So if there isn't a contract in place already, you can't do a modification. So the SF30 works for if there is a mortgage, or if there's an open court case, or if there's something with the IRS, or you can discharge debt because those are all contracts, even credit cards. Like any of that stuff works with the SF30 and then the 14, 14, 16, and 18 because there's an existing contract. But if you want to go buy a car or you want to go buy a house, you can't do that. You can't use an SF30 because there's no contract yet. You're trying to create a contract. Okay, so if you want to do that, you have to use other GSA forms. Pat talks about it in using a 1414, a 1416, and then you have to use GSA forms 91 and 28. And so those are the forms, the GSA forms are the ones that you want to use in order to like create new contracts, or if you have a court case you want to discharge. And then there's different forms for federal court than there is for civil court or criminal court. And then when you send those in, you want to use private mail. Okay. So I don't know if you guys all saw that in the group, but you have to use a version of private mail, and I'll get something up here for you so you can see, and I can kind of explain how that works.
The groups has been very busy. I can't keep up with everything in the groups.
Yeah, it can be difficult, but sure. All right. So you guys see let me try and move this over. There you go. All right. So this is an example of private mail. So you do not use the clerk. If you go in and use the clerk, it's not private. And if you don't send it private, then you can't claim private status in a courtroom. Okay. So this is the sticker that you get. That's an overnight sticker. Okay. So you don't have to do the overnight stuff if you have time. But if you don't have time, you can send it overnight express mail. Okay. And so then you put the express sticker on, and then you put the registered mail, and you got to put all the postage on. So there's 17 for this one, and there's $30 here. So that's $47 to send it private. But if you don't do this, if you don't have all this stuff on it, when you drop it in the mailbox, they won't send it. So you got to do this. Okay. Now you're not going to get like you do with the clerk on this registered mail thing, but you can't use the clerk if you want private mail. Okay. So this is how we do it is you go buy these. These are 4 of these 30 ones are like $121. And then, you can get all these off the US postal website. And then you just put them on here, and then you put these stickers on here, and then you seal it up. You just go drop it in the bin. Okay. And then you're mailing. And if you look through Pat's stuff when he talks about private mail and like using so notice this, if you look at my name right here, and it says private mail, and then the routing number is Georgia 306630184, and then US. Okay. So that's the same routing number. If you look at that, look at over here, RF, and then it's got the same amount of numbers, and then it ends in US. Same thing over here. This is how you send private mail. So how you come up with this number is that just look on a piece of your mail, and it'll say whatever. It'll say 30663 mine's 2775 at my house. So that's your 9-digit number. And then you just put your state and the US at the end of it. And that's how you come up with your private mailing stuff. Okay. And I can show you that. If you haven't seen this stuff,
Hey, Ken, can I ask a real quick question?
yeah, go ahead.
The envelope, that priority mail is a service that's offered by the United States Postal Service. Does that envelope change anything, that priority mail envelope? Because that's
Well,
on your right hand.
you're just dropping it in the bin. So they're
Okay.
gonna process it and they're gonna enter in that, that,
Register mail number.
no, they're not gonna mess with that.
Okay.
They're gonna enter in your, the one for the next day.
Hmm.
So that's the one you'll be able to track. But
Okay.
still considered private because you didn't. So when you go in front of the clerk, understand that a post office is a bank.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I understand that part. I was just
Right.
meaning
So if you
using
use a
their
clerk, then it
printed
goes on the
envelopes.
docket
Okay.
and your name goes on the docket and then they use your credit card and whatever. But if you buy stamps, stamps are lawful money.
Yep.
Stamps are backed by gold. Postal money orders are backed by gold. So that's why they tell you once you start operating in the private to use a non-interest bearing account to put the money in, and then you pull the money out and go get postal money orders. Okay, so that's why you're using stamps versus using the person at the clerk. So let me show you this. And you guys have probably seen this somewhere, but this is that UCC, the non-UCC thing. So, and this is off, if you buy the master file, you're gonna get this. So, starts talking about the mailing here, right? So here's your non-UCC document filing, registered mail. And so that's your numbers. And then it talks here about how to come up with your number. Right. And so understand that when the US government set up Washington, D.C., every single postal zip code in the country correlates to an area of Washington, D.C. So when you use a non-exempt zip code, you are essentially agreeing to their jurisdiction. So this is why Pat's telling you to do this stuff, is because this is what pulls you out of their jurisdiction. You're actually using a Republic zip code rather than a zip code that correlates as a portion of Washington, D.C. So then it shows you, this is how to use the stamp. And then it shows you how to do this, right? Where you put the stamps on the outside, the name and address, and then you just drop it in the drop box. You don't go to the clerk. So that's, if you guys have this, if you bought the master file, then find this in there and this will tell you about it. So that's that. So that's basically what I wanted to cover in in here. And so now I want to open up to questions. There was, some people that were, had some other questions about like the private bank and there was some questions about whether or not like what you have to do with the Secretary of State. And so go ahead and, ask whatever you need to.
I don't have any questions. I do have the files, so I'm just working my way through them, just trying to learn a lot more. It sounds like you've kind of been through a lot of the processes before. Did you mind sharing like how long you've been going through the journey?
Well, I worked pretty hard at it for the first 6 months. I was working about 5 hours a day. And, but there wasn't, until I started doing what I'm doing and whatever, there wasn't a person that just walked you through all the processes. Like everything was just kind of laying out there in the field. And then you had to figure it out on your own. So I started figuring it out. I just did stuff and some stuff worked, some stuff didn't. And so I started putting together a plan.
I do have a couple of questions. So as I'm going through the Robots and Patriots channel, I see some of the older processes, like I said, and you said some stuff worked and some stuff didn't. Would you have a list of which videos you found to be the most helpful. I kind of been compiling my own list, but then, like I said, sometimes I get to a video that where I hear Patrick say, "Yeah, don't bother doing this because it doesn't work. We tried that."
All right, so the first one that I'll tell you is the birth certificate. Anybody that tells you to not get it authenticated, do not listen to them. That is
Okay.
the most important thing that you will do. So
Okay.
contact your state, get at least 5 copies of your birth certificate and start sending them out to the state and then to the Department of State and get them done. Okay, because you have to send that in accepted for value to get your UCC contract trust. Okay, so understand that every single thing that you're doing leads up to the contract trust. The bank isn't important. It's important because it gives you a nexus to get the funds from the treasury to whatever you want to use them for. But it's not the only nexus, right? You can go in judge's chambers and get a nexus. You can get a black card. You can get, you can create a bank. You can liquidate. Okay, there's all kinds of ways to do this, but the private bank is the one that makes the most sense because it gives you control over everything. And the truth is, I don't want to liquidate. I want to use the nexus that's in place, right? And so that's what the bank, the private bank does for you. So the birth certificate, this silver bond is a really, really like compelling thing. Okay. The next thing is the UCC stuff. Like I would not skip over that. You might want to find a state that's there's a guy on Fila University. His name is Coach MT. He claims that New York is a really good place to do your UCCs. It's really easy. I use Wisconsin because that's where I'm from. But if you can't, like, if you live here in Georgia, Georgia's kind of a pain in the ass to do the UCC stuff or whatever. So wherever, just find some place to do the UCCs.
I did Florida. So I do have the birth certificate authenticated. I did 3 copies, so maybe I need to go back and get 2 more.
Yeah, 3 should be enough. I mean, I
Okay.
always say 5, just they're not that much money. I just ordered 9 more and they put a block on me now. They're like they're like I have to sign this document and verify that I'm who I say I am and all this stuff. And I'm just like, you already sent me 4 of them. Like, why? I'm the same person you sent the other 4 to, but this is because they know what I'm doing.
Right. So I'm just taking notes here. So you said the birth certificate, the UCC was one of the things you said before that. Oh, the silver bond. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so that and then the UCC, and then when you're doing the UCC, the few components that you need is you need a financial power of attorney, you need a security agreement and an indemnity, and you have to attach those to your UCCs because those contracts are what give you power. The other one I did was the common law copyright.
Yep.
So
Okay.
make sure you got that one done too, because that's an important one. I am a big believer in the list of fees. I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but I don't care. I did it.
The fee schedule. Yep. Got that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the other thing is that I don't know if the other people are telling you this or not, but you have to put this stuff on the record. And if you're not putting this stuff on the record, it's doing no good. Okay. Understand that you're lost at sea. Sesta KV Trust of 1666 says that you're lost at sea. Okay. And so in order for you to claim your title, you can't be lost at sea anymore. So if you're a vessel and you're lost at sea, how do you get on the land?
Yeah. So are you doing a miscellaneous filing in the U.S. District Court? Or are
No,
you
I
doing
do. It's Pima County, Arizona, and they have a docket. It's a probate docket, and they'll let you put all that stuff on the record. Pima County, Arizona, it's $30 per packet. So
Yeah,
you can
okay.
send them 100 pages and they'll put it on the record. So
Okay. So let me ask you, why is there any reason why you wouldn't use the federal court as a miscellaneous filing?
At the time I did it, I tried everywhere. I tried Georgia, I tried Wisconsin. The only people that I could find that would do it is Pima County, Arizona.
Gotcha.
And it
Okay.
doesn't matter
Oh
because,
yeah, and I'm familiar with them because so I did my UCC. I followed the process with Tyler with Understand Contract Law and UN.
Mhm.
I am familiar with Coach MT, but I had done it before I found out about him.
Yeah, well, Coach wasn't putting that out, right? Well, he was telling everybody to do all this stuff and send it to the Treasury, but he wasn't saying to get it on the record. Well, I got in front of some people and they were
Mhm.
explaining it to me. They're like, until you put it on the record,
It
your
means
ship is at sea.
right. I gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So that's very important. And then once you get the UCC done, then I would say slip right into the non-UCC. And then with Pat stuff, he talks about a reentry. So you want to look up the reentry stuff with Robots and Patriots, and you want to look up the allodial title on your body. Okay. Your
Okay.
body is portable land. Okay, just like gold and silver. So you have to claim title of it, and you can get an allodial title on your body.
Okay.
And so that's another important one. I have a whole video on that. If anybody wants to check it out, it's on the website. And so that allodial title on your body is just basically you file a deed with the register of deeds in your county that you were born. So when you have your birth certificate, it's going to say on it, like the older ones always say on it, like mine's book 68, page 223.
Hmm.
Okay, that's the same thing when you go and you find a land patent on land. It'll say land book 23, page 556. Okay, so your birth certificate is a land patent because your body is portable land. And so Pat tells you that you got to claim your land. And so he's got a whole process where you do the allodial title and you send it into the register of deeds and you get that done. So I'm in the process of working on that. They sent my first one back. They sent it to the city attorney and he got mad and he sent it back and told me to never send anything like that again. I grew up around the city attorney, so I know him personally. My dad knows his whole family. So me and him been like arguing back and forth about this. But the thing is that, that they have to do it.
Yeah, they do. What's your website? I heard you mention a website.
It's here, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Um, so that's so then the allodial title on your body and then the reentry. So it's basically where you're sending your social security card back to the Social Security Administration and you're letting them know that you're no longer interested in their bar card because that's exactly what your social security card is. It's a bar card. It is what gives them authority over you, your body in a court of law. So if you give that back, and the Pat has a whole thing about the reentry notice. So I would look into them. The bankruptcy stuff is kind of important, but if you're not in that mode, like if you're not like dealing with bankruptcy or foreclosures and whatever, that's not like a a pillar of what you're trying to do. Okay.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then once you get through that stuff, the main thing is being educated. You got to be able to back this up.
Yep. I get it.
And it like every single process, you better be able to stand in front of a judge and talk smart about it. So like that's the other thing is like reading this stuff and like like the Weiss handbook and stuff. So then once you get through that stuff and you start getting into like where the creditor academy is, okay, you have to like you got to have your trust in place, because you're getting rid of your transmitting utility. So you got to have another one in place. And that's what your express trust is. If you have businesses, what I did is I put them all into a business trust. So I have a Massachusetts business trust with everything from the family. And I have a total of 4 trusts right now. I have a gun trust, I have an express trust, I have a business trust, and then I have a family revocable trust for my grandson and granddaughter, or my daughter and grandson. And so that's that stuff. Okay. So then when you get into the private bank, okay, so in order for you to be a private bank and in order for you to have access to the OCC, okay, you have to have a registration number in a jurisdiction. Now, you're a private bank and you're unincorporated and you're a non-member FDIC. Okay, so because of that, you don't have to register it. It's an unregistered company, but it does have to be registered as a nonprofit, unincorporated. Okay, so Pat talks about it in his videos. He talks specifically about Colorado. Secretary of State will do it, but there's several states that'll do this. But once you get that registration number as a private bank, then you can send that to the OCC and get a routing number. Once you have a routing number for your private bank from the OCC, okay, that's how you get the nexus to get your funds. Okay, so here's the problem that I have with all the information that's being put out there is how does the money go from private to public? As a Social Security person, you cannot do that because the contract specifically says that you're public and you cannot deal with the private. So when you get rid of your contract with Social Security, how are you going to get the funds from the private? So yeah, you can be in the private and you can get a TD account and you can do all that. But how do you get into the public sector and go buy a car or go pay your bills or whatever? So Pat did it by getting, it was called an express card, which is what everybody calls the black card. Okay, so Pat did this and he got the black card and then he used the card to purchase what he needed to purchase. Okay, if you get a private bank set up and you have a routing number, then you set up trust accounts and you use the trust accounts to pull the money out of the private and in the public. Okay, so these are things that like aren't really being talked about, but there has to be a nexus. There has to be a connection in between. So like as a foreign, when you have your foreign grantor trust and your 9(a) EIN, you have to get your non-interest bearing account for that entity so you can operate in the public. Okay, so how are you going to get the money from your contract trust account to that account? So you have to have something that connects the two. Right. And so you can get a private banker account, but almost every state, including Georgia that I went to, said that you have to have a 503C in order to get a bank account in Georgia. So this is something that is, there's a 1,000 ways to skin a cat. You just got to figure out how you're going to do that. And it'll be interesting to see through the Credit Academy how they do all that. And how their process is for that, because you can't spend money in the public through a TD account. You have to be tied. The TD account has to be tied to a public bank account or a commercial, what they say in Credit Academy, they call it commercial account.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's a big question mark in there how that works out. Now, if you're going to just discharge debt, especially with a bank, you don't need an account to do that. All you do is put the SF30 and the other forms in, and then they take the money out of your trust and they send it directly to the bank. It's not really money because there is no money.
The right to credit.
Yeah, it's just they credit the bank. Right. And so that's when you do that, that's fine. But like if you're going to go buy a car, if you're going to go buy a house, or if you want to invest in something or whatever, how are you going to get that money in the public? And so the way that one of the ways that you do that is with the black card, what Pat did, what they called the Social Security Express card, or you get a private bank set up with a private bank checking account, and that's where the money goes. So you'll have to play around with that and figure out, what that is for you, but that's how you do it. That's how you get to that point. Anybody that's
Couldn't you
following my
use a
stuff,
brokerage account?
what's that?
Couldn't you use a brokerage account?
Right, but the brokerage account has to be for your private bank.
Right. So if you do, who is it, like Charles Schwab or Fidelity or somebody like that, and set up a brokerage account for the trust, and then connect the trust to the TDA account, then you could move between the two.
Right.
Am I right?
Right, but you can't use a social security number if you're trying to get out of the system. So then you have to use either the 9-3, mine's 9-3, everybody else is a 9-9. So you either have to use the private banker EIN or you use the 9-8 EIN. Okay. And so so that's where the challenge is because they don't want to set up accounts without social security numbers. I am told that a non-interest bearing account doesn't require a social security number. I haven't set one up yet.
Yeah, I've set one up, but it doesn't. It doesn't require a social security number.
For the one with Fidelity?
That was actually at a bank in Indiana.
Okay.
Uh,
What was the name of that bank?
it was a Old National Bank.
Okay. Yeah, so there's the Weiss talks about that if you get a non-interest bearing account, you don't have to use a social security number. And yes, you can do a brokerage account and tie that to your private banker. And yeah, and I also heard from another guy that I've been talking to that he did one in Minnesota with Wells Fargo. So I don't know. I haven't had that much luck in Georgia with Wells Fargo, but I know that they're a lot different I know they're a lot different up in Minnesota and wherever. So
Yeah, a lot of people have had luck with US Bank, PNC, Truist. Those banks have been pretty much friendly with this process as well.
yeah, and this is it's kind of a gray area because not everybody, there isn't just a clear path yet.
Right.
And every time somebody figures something out, they put a roadblock up. So
Right.
like I have a few people in this movement that I communicate with every day, and I send them everything I'm doing every day, because if I just disappear someday, then they know where to pick up where I left off.
Right.
Right. And this is and I don't mean disappear as in getting killed. What I think happens is when you figure it out and you get in the private, they tell you that you can't share this. And I think that that's why you see a lot of people disappear when they figure it out. So
I've heard a couple of I heard Yusaville kind of say something similar to that.
yeah, they're gonna make I'm pretty sure if you get a black card or any of that other stuff, they're gonna make you sign a pretty intrusive document of non-disclosure. And I'm pretty sure it has teeth, and they'll send you to prison if you talk about it. So I'm thinking that's maybe what's going on. I don't know. I haven't got that far yet. I have court tomorrow for a criminal deal that I'm using all this stuff on. And I had a bankruptcy court for the company that I'm in appeal. I appealed the decision of the bankruptcy court. And so I'm using all this stuff on. So once I get those once I climb those two mountains, then I'm going to dig more into this private bank. I'm right now waiting for the state of Wyoming to send me my registration number so I can contact the OCC. But they keep saying because the name bank is in the title that they don't want to give it to me. So, I keep writing them letters and talking to them. So I'm hoping shortly this gets resolved. And then once I do that, then I'll have a process for you all to go through. And I know they'll do it because I found other companies that have done it. in Wyoming. But, so once I figure that out, then I'm going to let everybody know how to do that. So once you do that, and then you get your own Federal Reserve number, and then you get your own trust accounts, then then you can run the money for your family. So your, significant other, for your, immediate family, like daughter and son and whoever. So that's what I'm trying to get to the point, I just don't want to just like half-ass get a black card here. Like, I want a clear path to go from the UCC contract trust to the private banker. And so I guess we'll see how all that works out. Did I answer everybody's questions? I saw there's a question in here about the 9(8) EIN.
I have a question.
Sure, go
My name
ahead.
is Vanessa. And I missed the part when you were talking about the birth certificate authentication. I'm originally from Arkansas, but I live in Texas now.
Yeah.
Do I get it authenticated in Arkansas,
Yeah.
or what's that
You have
process?
you have to get them from Arkansas. You got to get the long form, and then you have to send it to Arkansas and tell them that you're going to be traveling to Egypt or whatever country you want to use. I used Egypt. And then they'll authenticate it. And then once you get that back, you send it to the Department of State, and then they'll authenticate that. So once it's double
Department of State of
authenticated,
Arkansas or Texas?
first you send it to Arkansas,
Okay.
then you send it to the Department of State in Virginia.
Oh, Virginia. Okay.
Yep. And then once you get it back from there, that's a double authenticated birth certificate, and that's your lawful claimant title.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Ken, I saw on your birth certificate, and I've seen on a few other people's, you have the gold seal on yours that shows the authentication.
Yep.
But on mine, when I got mine back from Virginia, they have a gold ring in the upper left corner attached to the certification from the state, and it says full faith and credit of the United States across the top.
Yep. That's good.
Yeah, I have the same.
Yep.
Well,
So
the state
basically what
just
that
said
means
it,
is you can go to whatever state or whatever country that's authenticated for, and you can walk into the embassy and you can show that birth certificate and get money.
Wait, say that again. You were breaking up on my end.
So the point of that is that you get that authenticated in whatever country that is, and then when you travel there, you can go to the embassy and get money.
Oh,
So that's what that's for. But you can't do that unless it's double authenticated.
right.
Right. So you're doing it so that you can, you're telling them you can do it so you can travel to a different country, but it works the same here. That's why they make you give up a country that you're traveling to, because they don't want to give this to you, because they don't want you to have lawful claimant title.
So, Ken, here's my question. If you did your authentication, submitted it again with some different countries that you were traveling to, would that force them to give it up to you?
Yeah, so that's the idea of it. That's why they do it, for full faith and credit.
Yeah, I'm saying you said they wouldn't give you any extra ones that you sent off, or did you try using something other than Egypt, or?
No, I'm just talking the birth certificates. I'm
Yeah,
not even talking the authentication.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
they're just being assholes about the birth certificates because they know what I'm doing.
I see.
Yeah, so they're like, sign this, and I'm like, I'm not signing that. And they're like, you have to sign it. We won't give them to you. And I'm like, so I don't know. Well, I mean, I can walk in there face to face and get them.
That's what I was thinking. If you walk in there, because you're probably going through vital statistics or something.
Well, it's in Wisconsin. I'm in Georgia, so I got to drive 12 hours to do it.
I don't know about Wisconsin, but I know in Michigan, you actually can write directly to the Department of Health in Michigan and send a check to them. So there's another way to go through without vital statistics. So
No, I was using the state of Wisconsin
I
office in
got you.
Madison, Wisconsin, and that's who's being a pain in the butt.
Right with it.
But I can go to my courthouse in my hometown and get it too.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So I just gotta drive 12 hours and do it. So it's not the end of the
What
world.
can
But
you have somebody that lives there go get it for you?
yeah, I don't know
Some
if they'll do that. I can ask.
I know in Alabama, a relative can get it. You just have to sign
Yeah.
something saying why and like send your ID. I know because I just did it for an elderly aunt who didn't know how to get her birth certificate.
Right. Yeah. So I don't really need them because I was just trying to get some more of them because when you're doing these GSA bonds, they need that. You have to send that to the GSA. You have to send not an authenticated, you have to send a certified birth certificate. So the only one that's certified is the bond one on bond paper. So I ran out of them. So I was going to order 10 more of them. And then that's when they were like being a pain in the butt. So, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. And, do you guys have any more questions about anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna shut it down. It is recorded, so if I'll have it on the website. I'll also have it up on YouTube. So if you guys have anybody that's like got some questions or whatever, and you'll be able to like turn them on to this so that they can watch it. So, all right.
Thank you. Do you have a
All right.
page on YouTube?
Yep, I got a page on YouTube. I have a private Telegram, and a website. If you want to go to the website, anything you want, you can check stuff out, or you can send me an email, and I usually respond right away. So, okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. You guys have a good night.
You too.
Yep. Bye.